Chapter 361, Ashamed into anger. Yili looked at the seventh-tier evolved being with a puzzled expression. What are you laughing at? The seventh-tier evolved being stopped laughing when he heard Yili's question. He looked at Yili with a triumphant expression and said, "One never expected that it would be so easy to find you, and without any effort at all. So, what do you say? Are you coming back with me to the Gu family on your own, or do you want me to take action?" The seventh-tier evolved being continued. As these words were spoken, the air became unusually quiet. The members of the Xia family all turned their eyes to Yili, curious to know how he would respond. Yili shook his head inwardly, wondering why he always encountered people with such poor judgment. Was it really that hard to remember not to mess with someone you shouldn't? "Leave, and do it as fast as you can," Yili calmly said to the seventh-tier evolved being. The seventh-tier evolved being was taken aback. He couldn't understand why, even at this point, Yili could still be so audacious. "You insolent brat!" The seventh-tier evolved being shouted. As the sound fell, the seventh-tier evolved being raised his palm, and a red spiritual power attack was directed towards Yili. The Xia family members quickly turned their gaze towards Yili. They knew that this was a strike from a seventh-tier evolved being and were curious if Yili could withstand it. However, what they didn't expect was that Yili showed no intention of dodging. He remained still in his place, with an indifferent expression on his face. Xia Heng shook his head. He had thought that Yili must have some strength to be able to say so many arrogant words. Now, this elder of the Gu family had already scared Yili silly with just a casual blow. The red spiritual power attack was only a hair's breadth away from Yili, and Yili still showed no intention of dodging. The Xia family members widened their eyes because they knew that Yili was about to be hit by this red spiritual power attack. Xia Chun and Xia Shi were on the edge of their seats, their palms sweaty. However, just as the red spiritual power attack was about to hit Yili, at the critical moment, Yili disappeared from his original position, leaving only an afterimage. What? The Xia family members and the seventh-tier evolved being from the Gu family couldn't help but inhale sharply. He disappeared. When the red spiritual power attack was so close to Yili, there was no way he could have avoided it. They had all thought that Yili would definitely be hit by the attack, so they were completely unprepared for what happened. How fast was that speed? The seventh-tier evolved being from the Gu family was even more dumbfounded. At the moment Yili disappeared from his original position, he quickly searched for Yili's figure. At this moment, Yili had already appeared behind the seventh-tier evolved being, but the seventh-tier evolved being had no idea. When the seventh-tier evolved being finally reacted and turned around, he hadn't even finished his sentence before his entire body was sent flying. Xia Heng's face turned pale. He hadn't noticed when Yili had moved behind the seventh-tier evolved being. He couldn't understand how Yili had done it. Even the elders and disciples of the Xia family were stunned. They couldn't fathom how terrifying Yili was. The seventh-tier evolved being crashed heavily to the ground, his face covered in dust. He struggled to get up, his eyes filled with raging anger. As an elder of the Gu family, he couldn't remember the last time someone had dared to attack him. In an instant, the seventh-tier evolved being's anger surged, and his courage grew. He seemed ready to take Yili's life. "I'll have your life." The seventh-tier evolved being erupted in fury. Chapter 362, Isn't it a bit late to escape now? With a swift motion, the seventh-tier evolved being extended a large hand formed of condensed spiritual power, reaching out to grab Yili. Yili shook his head inwardly. At this point, this seventh-tier evolved being still didn't realize the vast difference in strength between them. The members of the Xia family turned their attention back to Yili, curious to see if he could withstand the seventh-tier evolved being's attack. Yili slowly raised one finger, and golden spiritual power enveloped it. Swish! Yili swung his finger, and a burst of golden spiritual power shot out like lightning. The golden spiritual power attack collided with the giant hand formed of spiritual power. Boom! A deafening explosion resounded, and to everyone's surprise, the spiritual power hand was shattered by the impact. The golden spiritual power attack continued to rush towards the 7th tier evolved being. The 7th tier evolved being was shocked. He never expected that Yili was an SSS tier genetic warrior. Except for the younger generation of the Xia family, no one else had imagined that Yili could be an SSS tier genetic warrior, a genetic talent that existed only in legends. However, the 7th tier evolved being was still a high tier evolved being. He managed to dodge the golden spiritual power attack at the last moment. After evading the attack, he couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. He knew he was no match for Yili. The 7th tier evolved being quickly realized that he had only one option left, to flee. Unfortunately, his speed was nothing compared to Yili's. Yili activated the swift steps and flew to the front of the 7th tier evolved being. The 7th tier evolved being abruptly stopped in his tracks, staring at Yili with terror in his eyes. Yili's face remained calm and composed, like still water. He looked at the 7th tier evolved being and said calmly, "I already gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now, do you think it's a bit late to escape?" The 7th tier evolved being's pupils contracted rapidly upon hearing these words. He saw a golden spiritual power attack coming towards him. However, at this distance, even if he had 10 legs, he couldn't avoid it. Ali! A gruesome scream echoed as a horrifying blood hole appeared on the 7th tier evolved being's thigh. The members of the Xia family were filled with horror, feeling suffocated by the terrifying power that Yili had displayed. Xia Hong and the other elders looked at Yili and couldn't help but smile wryly. Only now did they realize how strong Yili was. The 7th tier evolved being continued to scream, and his screams were truly unbearable to hear. Yili seemed uninterested. He casually spoke to the 7th tier evolved being lying on the ground, "Go and deliver a message to your master." Upon hearing these words, the 7th tier evolved being felt like he had been granted a reprieve. He ignored the pain and quickly got up, leaving the Xia family at the fastest speed possible. He had to do this because he knew that someone like Yili, if he wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. Why was Yili so audacious when he first arrived in Sky Blue Base City? As a 9th tier evolved being, with the power of the 4th level of the ancient Devil Tome and 2 divine weapons, Yili had every reason to be arrogant. After the 7th tier evolved being left, Xia Hong suddenly spoke to Yili, Who are you exactly?" Chapter 363, The furious Xia Hong. Yili's displayed strength was too astonishing, and Xia Hong, an 8th tier evolved being, felt the overwhelming pressure from Yili at this moment. The members of the Xia family felt the same way. Even a 7th tier evolved being was defeated with ease by the young man. Compared to Yili, the younger generation of the Xia family was like insignificant dust in the world, while Yili was an unattainable mountain they could only look up to. Yili. Yili said slowly. Clearly, the name Yili was completely unfamiliar to Xia Hong and the others. "Oh right, Senior, Elder Gu mentioned that Gu Bai said you injured him. What happened?" Xia Shi looked at Yili and asked. Yili smiled, "It's nothing, he simply underestimated me, and I gave him a little lesson." Gu Bai had been acting arrogantly in the Sky Blue Base City, disregarding the other 7 families because his Gu family was the leader among the top 8 families. When the young members of the Xia family heard that Yili had taught Gu Bai a lesson, they felt a sense of satisfaction. "Yili, although you're strong, the Gu family is not to be underestimated. One won't hold you accountable for damaging my mystic iron stone since you saved Cici, but you should leave." Xia Hong wanted Yili to leave. In his view, since Yili had injured the Gu family's elder and Gu Bai, the Gu family would surely seek revenge. If Yili stayed with the Xia family, it would be hard to wash their hands of the matter, given the Gu family's good relations with the top 3 families in the Sky Blue Base City. In Sky Blue Base City, the top 3 families were the true dominant forces, and other families couldn't compare to them at all. The top 3 families controlled the city's resources, economy, and military. Dad, Senior is my lifesaver. How can you ask him to leave now? Xia Shi quickly said. Dad, Senior is also my lifesaver, Xia Chun added. Afterward, Xia Chun recounted the events that had happened in Jiang City, although she didn't mention Yi Li's Apocalypse Legion, fearing it might displease him. Xia Hong was taken aback. He knew that Yi Li had saved Xia Shi, but he hadn't expected Yi Li to be the lifesaver of both his daughters. By the way, do you think your mystic iron stone is good? Yi Li suddenly asked. Mystic iron stone was typically used to forge weapons and was considered a valuable material. Xia Hong was momentarily stunned and couldn't help furrowing his brows. Yi Li was clearly challenging his patience. He had turned his mystic iron stone into dust and now he still asked him if it was good. That mystic iron stone was acquired through great effort by our family head. What do you mean by good? A Xia family elder shouted at Yi Li. I mean it's not good, Yi Li replied slowly. What? When this statement came out, everyone in the Xia family was shocked, looking at Yi Li in disbelief. Yi Li, how dare you say that my mystic iron stone is not good? Xia Hong stared at Yi Li angrily. Yi Li smiled nonchalantly. If your mystic iron stone was truly good, why did it turn into dust under my gaze? Hearing this, Xia Hong's pupils rapidly contracted because he realized he had no way to argue. You. Xia Hong clenched his teeth, not knowing how to respond, and could only glare at Yi Li in anger. Chapter 364, gave Xia Hong a star stone. Xia Hong could swear that he had never been this angry in his entire life. The Xia family members were also seething with anger. They felt that Yi Li was incredibly arrogant. Are you angry? Yi Li looked at Xia Hong calmly. Xia Hong was taken aback. Never in his wildest dreams did he think Yi Li would say such words. Of course, he was furious. He had gone through great lengths to obtain the mystic iron stone, and now it was gone. How could he not be angry? Yi Li, what do you mean? Xia Hong stared intently at Yi Li. You're angry just because you think one said your mystic iron stone is bad. You think I'm wrong, right? Oh. A hint of playfulness appeared on Yi Li's face. Exactly. Xia Hong glared at Yi Li. He wanted to see what Yi Li was up to. Just now, your people from the Xia family didn't believe me when one said one saved Xia Chun. I just showed them a little demonstration. Since you think your mystic iron stone is so important, then I'll return it to you. However, before Yi Li could finish his sentence, Xia Hong interrupted. However, what? However, your mystic iron stone is too trashy. I'll give you a better stone. Yi Li continued calmly. With that, Yi Li accessed the point mall in his mind and spent 50,000 points to purchase a star stone. Yi Li retrieved the star stone from the system space, and it appeared before the Xia family members. Facing the sudden appearance of the stone, everyone in the Xia family was astonished. The younger generation of the Xia family didn't know what this good-looking stone was, but the middle-aged and older generations were well aware. Xia Hong looked at the stone before him and made a gesture that was completely out of line with his status and strength as an 8th-tier evolved being. He rubbed his eyes. Is this a star stone? As soon as these words were spoken, the younger generation of the Xia family was left dumbfounded. Although they hadn't seen a star stone before, they had heard of it. Weapons crafted from star stones could undoubtedly be called divine weapons, and they were considered priceless. No matter how you looked at it, Xia Hong had never expected Yi Li to produce a star stone. Upon careful consideration, he was secretly shocked. He couldn't understand how Yi Li had gotten hold of a star stone. I wonder how this stone compares to your mystic iron stone. Yi Li asked. Xia Hong's face showed a hint of embarrassment. In comparison to the star stone, the mystic iron stone was like trash. Of course, the star stone is better, Xia Hong hurriedly replied. Having cost 50,000 points, How could the star stone not be better? However, Yi Li's current points had accumulated to a terrifying level. 50,000 points were nothing to him. Can this star stone be comparable to your mystic iron stone? Yi Li asked. Yes, of course, Xia Hong hurriedly said. Yi Li smiled calmly and said, since that's the case, then this star stone is yours. Xia Hong was taken aback. Really? The star stone was extremely precious, and he couldn't believe that Yi Li would give it to him. I said earlier, your mystic iron stone is too trashy. I wanted to give you another stone, Yi Li said casually. Although Xia Hong was maintaining a facade of anger on the surface, he was secretly overjoyed. This was a star stone. Without much thought, Yi Li prepared to leave. Chapter 365, Gu Zhao, the head of the Gu family, wait. Yi Li had just taken a step when Xia Hong suddenly stopped him. Yi Li showed his side profile and slowly said, anything else? You injured the elder of the Gu family and Gu Chaos son. If you're in the Xia family, I can say a few words for you, Xia Hong said. Yi Li didn't expect Xia Hong to say such a thing. According to his guess, the Xia family shouldn't be as strong as the Gu family. But Xia Hong wasn't afraid of offending the Gu family at all, which surprised him. Actually, the Gu family is nothing in my eyes, so, before Yi Li finished speaking, an angry shout entered everyone's ears. Xia Hong, Gu Chao, have come. Before he arrived, his voice already did. Everyone in the Xia family couldn't help but tremble. Gu Chao was the head of the Gu family and Gu Bei's father. He was also an 8th-tier evolved being. Xia Hong led the Xia family out, but Yi Li was unmoved. He raised his head slightly to look at the sun in the sky and muttered to himself, another group of stupid flies. Xia Hong led the people of the Xia family to the gate of the Xia family and found that Gu Chao had appeared with the 9 grand elders of the Gu family. Gu Chao and Xia Hong were about the same age. He looked like a scholar, with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. Xia Hong, one was out of good intentions to ask you to marry your daughter to my son. Not only does your Xia family not appreciate it, but you also injured the 10th elder of our Gu family. I heard that the person who injured the 10th elder injured my son a few days ago. Your Xia family is really something. Gu Chao looked at Xia Hong coldly. The Gu family was the leader of the 8 major families in the Sky Blue Base City. When had they ever suffered such humiliation? Xia Hong had been a little worried that he had kept Yi Li in the Xia family, but now it seemed that there was no need to worry. Gu Chao already felt that the Xia family was behind Yi Li. Gu Chao, you're not here to tell me this, are you? Xia Hong looked at Gu Chao and said. Of course not. Hand that guy over. Gu Chao said coldly. Xia Hong was in a dilemma. If he handed Yi Li over, he might feel guilty towards Yi Li, but if he refused, it might affect his relationship with the Gu family. At this moment, a very lazy voice entered everyone's ears. Are you looking for me? Everyone from the Gu family looked in the direction of the voice and saw a handsome young man walking over slowly. Yi Li stopped beside Xia Hong and looked at the people from the Gu family indifferently. Who are you? Gu Chao frowned. He didn't expect this young man to dare to interrupt the conversation between him and Xia Hong. I am the person you are looking for. Yi Li said lightly. The people from the Gu family were shocked. They didn't hear it clearly just now, but now they did. You're the one who injured the 10th elder and my son. Gu Chao looked at Yi Li in disbelief. Yi Li was too young. The 10th elder was a 7th-tier evolved being. I just injured a 7th-tier evolved being. Do you need to be so surprised? Yi Li slowly said. Silence, a deathly silence. Everyone present widened their eyes. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such an arrogant person in their lives. Very good. I, Gu Bai, have dominated the various jurisdictions of the Sky Blue Bay City for so many years, but I've never seen someone as arrogant as you. How many lives do you have? Gu Chao stared at Yi Li and said. 1, Yi Li said indifferently. No one from the Xia family dared to make a sound at this moment. They looked at Yi Li and Gu Chao in horror. Chapter 366, Are you tickling me? Gu Chao stared at Yi Li. Yi Li could still be so calm in front of him and even say such shameless words. You injured the 10th elder and my son. What do you think will happen to you? Gu Chao said coldly. Yi Li smiled and looked at Gu Chao. I really don't understand. Gu Chao's expression turned cold. What don't you understand? Everyone present looked at Yi Li, not understanding what he meant. A few seconds later, Yi Li slowly said, I don't understand how an 8th tier evolved being like you dares to say such a thing to me. As soon as he said this, everyone's pupils couldn't help but constrict. They never expected Yi Li to say such a thing. Gu Chao couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he came back to his senses and laughed at Yi Li, ha ha ha. I, Gu Chao, am the head of the Gu family, an 8th tier evolved being. How dare someone talk nonsense in front of me? What a joke. The elders of the Gu family couldn't help but laugh because they felt that what Yi Li said was too ridiculous. There were originally 10 grand elders in the Gu family, all of whom were 7th tier evolved beings. The 10th elder was injured by Yi Li, and behind Gu Chao were the 9 grand elders of the Gu family. Not only the Gu family, but even the Xia family felt that Yi Li was too arrogant. The head of the Gu family was an 8th tier evolved being. Do you really believe your own eyes? Yi Li looked at Gu Chao and said lightly. Gu Chao was stunned. Obviously, he didn't understand what Yi Li meant, but before he could say anything, he heard Yi Li say again, I'm in a good mood today, so I don't want to lower myself to your level. You can go now. When everyone from the Gu family heard this, they froze like clay sculptures. You don't want to lower yourself to our level? They really couldn't understand how a person like Yi Li could live for so long. Gu Chao secretly smiled when he heard this. He slowly shook his head, feeling that he was too stupid. He, the head of the Gu family, actually said such words to such a young man. He thought that someone else must have injured the 10th elder and his son. After all, the 10th elder was a 7th tier evolved being. It was impossible for this youth in front of him to defeat the 10th elder. This person was probably the head of the Xia family, Xia Hong. Thinking of this, Gu Chao couldn't help but sneer. He would settle scores with the Xia family sooner or later. Since the Xia family let this boy take the blame, he would capture this boy first. Take him away. Gu Chao ordered the 9 grand elders behind him. An elder nodded and extended his hand. A big hand condensed from spiritual energy grabbed at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly. Why were there always so many ants attacking him? Even if you catch me, so what? Yi Li stood still as if he didn't see the huge hand at all. The big hand condensed from spiritual energy held Yi Li's body accurately. The elder sneered. Since Yi Li was grabbed by this hand, he would probably have been half dead. But to everyone's surprise, Yi Li's handsome face was still calm as if he couldn't feel any pain at all. Are you tickling me? Yi Li looked at the 7th-tier evolved being in front of him and said lightly. Chapter 367, Fighting the Gu family alone. At this moment, Yi Li was held by the control cloud hand, yet he seemed impervious to pain, maintaining a calm expression on his jade-like face. How is this possible? The Gu family elder who had cast the spiritual energy hand was dumbfounded. He could swear that he had never been this shocked in his entire life. The members of the Xia family and the Gu family were equally astounded, their eyes wide open and their mouths gaping, as if they could swallow an extra-large bowl. Was this man made of steel? Even if he were made of steel, wouldn't he be crushed by the spiritual energy hand? Yi Li smiled faintly, looking at Gu Chao. I already gave you the chance to leave, but you insisted on staying. You can't blame me now. With those words, Yili activated the third layer of the ancient devil tome. In an instant, a suffocating aura of demonic aura appeared. The younger generation of the Xia family was left trembling violently, their pupils dilating in fear. They felt as if their very souls were submitting to the man before them. Not to mention the young generation of the Xia family, even the middle-aged and elderly generations were horrified. Such a level of pressure was truly too terrifying. As Yili activated the fourth tier of the ancient devil tome, the spiritual energy hand holding him suddenly disappeared. Yili raised his hand, and golden spiritual power attacks shot out like a machine gun. The members of the Gu family hurriedly dodged, unable to believe the horror they were witnessing. Gu Chao had initially thought that someone else had injured the 10th elder and his son. However, now he realized just how wrong his assumptions had been. Swish! 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 With the combination of golden spiritual power attacks and the oppressive force of the fourth tier of the ancient devil tome, Gu Chao and the Gu family elders found themselves at a loss. Gu Chao managed to evade one of the golden spiritual power attacks, and suddenly, he realized something that left him utterly shocked. Golden spiritual power, an SSS tier genetic warrior. As he had been dodging the golden spiritual power attacks, he hadn't paid attention, but now he understood that there had never been an SSS tier genetic warrior in Sky Blue Base City since its establishment. Origin returning palm. Suddenly, Gu Chao made a swift movement, raising his palm to release the return to origin returning palm. Countless spirit energy-formed palm prints rushed towards Yili. Senior, be careful. Xia Shi shouted to Yili. Of course, Yili noticed this scene. He tapped his toes and leaped off the ground, dodging the countless spirit energy-formed palm prints. Swish! A terrifying golden spiritual power attack sped towards Gu Chao. The difference between a 9th-tier evolved being and an 8th-tier evolved being was simply insurmountable, like an impassable chasm. The entire process happened so quickly that Gu Chao didn't even have time to react. The golden spiritual power attack reached him. Ali! Gu Chaos' arm was pierced by the golden spiritual power attack, not only leaving a horrifying bloody hole, but also shattering his arm. The Gu family elders were petrified when they saw this scene. They felt as though they had been struck by a thunderbolt, their souls leaving their bodies, and their spirits fleeing. They quickly rushed over to bring Gu Chao to escape, and the entire process unfolded smoothly, reaching unprecedented speeds. Yili chose not to pursue them. He could have done so, but it wasn't necessary. He was never one to revel in killing, and he currently had no intention of starting a bloodbath. One man single-handedly fought against the head of the Gu family and their 9 elders. The members of the Xia family had thought they were already quite shocked earlier, but they could never expect that they were only now truly stunned. Chapter 368, How Strong is Senior? Where would Xia Hong have thought that Yili could be this terrifying? With such strength, could it be? Xia Hong suddenly thought of a shocking possibility. Besides being an SSS-tier genetic warrior, Yili might also be a 9th-tier evolved being. Thinking of this, Xia Hong felt his whole body trembling uncontrollably. At such a young age, a 9th-tier evolved being? Sis, how strong is Senior really? Xia Shi asked in astonishment, turning to Xia Chun. Xia Chun was taken aback by the question and couldn't help but recall the time when she and Yili had encountered the 7th-tier Night Dark Tribe member in Jiang City. When the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member asked Yili what his realm was, she remembered very well that Yili smiled faintly and slowly said to the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, "Not high. Just a level 9 evolved being." After snapping out of his thoughts, Xia Hong quickly walked over to Yili and respectfully clasped his fists. "I never expected Mr. Yi to be a 9th-tier evolved being. I apologize for not showing you the proper respect." The Xia family members, upon hearing this, once again found themselves in a state of shock. Although they had already suspected as much, hearing their family head say it out loud left them even more astounded. No need to worry. One never told you that one was a 9th-tier evolved being before, so how would you have known? Yi Li replied calmly. However, Xia Hong's face showed a hint of embarrassment. Only genetic warriors with the same or lower cultivation realm could detect it. Given Yi Li's age, no one would associate him with a 9th-tier evolved being but would rather assume that he was concealing his realm. After all, even a 1st-tier evolved being could hide their cultivation realm. But, Mr. Yi, given the relationship between our Gu family and the other top 2 families, Xia Hong hesitated to continue speaking, looking at Yi Li cautiously. Yi Li gazed at Xia Hong and replied, "Do you really think I'm afraid of the so-called top 3 families?" Xia Hong stopped speaking after hearing this. Yi Li had come from the wilderness zone, and he had faced countless hardships and dangers. The top 3 families or any other force in this city posed no threat to him. Later, Yi Li stayed in the Xia family for 2 days, but the Gu family's people still didn't come looking for him. Feeling bored, he decided to visit various major areas around Sky Blue Base City. He had no clues regarding the whereabouts of the Super Treasure Map's treasure. He wanted to see if there were any leads now. Yi Li left the main Sky Blue Base City and arrived at a city that appeared neither too big nor too small. Currently, Long Yu was a 6th-tier zombie, and his realm was still too low. Yi Li needed to upgrade him into a higher-level zombie. The 18-clawed zombies were only level 3 and extremely weak. Yi Li activated the Heavenly Spirit Eye and used it to scan the area. He found that there were quite a few zombies in the city. Roar! Roar! Yi Li hadn't even released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space when the sounds of zombies could be heard in his ears. Hundreds of zombies rushed towards Yi Li madly. Zombies were essentially walking corpses, and these were low-level zombies with no intelligence. When they saw a human, it was as if they had found the most delicious food in the world. Yi Li couldn't be bothered to fight them himself and released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. There was Ada, Bai Wawa, Hongye, Yutong, Swordman Al-Chi, Bone Maiden, and Long Yu. Attack! Yi Li said lazily, a lazy expression on his jade-like face. With that, the Apocalypse Legion launched into action. Chapter 369, Sweeping Through Thousands. As Yi Li gave the order, Ada, Bai Wawa, Hongye, Yutong, Swordsman Ah-Chi, Bone Maiden, and Long Yu rushed out. Hundreds of zombies had no intelligence at all. How could they know the power of the Apocalypse Legion? In just an instant, the hundreds of zombies were defeated by the Apocalypse Legion. Yi Li then used the synthesis grid in his mind to synthesize them all. Yi Li felt a bit bored as none of these zombies were clawed zombies. Afterward, Yi Li instructed the Apocalypse Legion to attract more zombies. The Apocalypse Legion spread out in all directions and soon attracted numerous zombies. Among the horde were many clawed zombies. A gleam of excitement appeared on Yi Li's face. Yi Li issued orders to the Apocalypse Legion, and they began their attack. Swaths of zombies fell, and Yi Li started synthesizing, his hand speed reaching an incredible level. In this wave of synthesis, Yi Li upgraded all 18 clawed zombies to level 7 zombies. However, Long Yu was still a 6th-tier zombie, and Yi Li started frantically searching for more zombies. After thoroughly exploring the city and wandering around from morning to the next night, Yi Li finally upgraded Long Yu to an 8th-tier zombie. Ding! Congratulations to the host for synthesizing an 8th-tier zombie. You have obtained a super treasure chest. Open it, Yi Li replied without hesitation. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the zombie skill, Sweeping Through Thousands. Sweeping Through Thousands, an class zombie skill. Wherever it's used, rivers of blood flow. Without much thought, Yi Li infused the Sweeping Through Thousands skill into Long Yu. A human. Suddenly, a chilling laughter echoed in Yi Li's ears. Yi Li followed the sound and saw a giant red ant appearing about 10 meters away. The ant was entirely red, roughly the size of a cow, and looked incredibly eerie. No, you're not a human. You don't have the scent of a human. The giant red ant stared at Yili and chuckled coldly. Huh? After the giant red ant finished speaking, it seemed to have discovered something and its body visibly trembled. High-tier zombies. Upon closer inspection, the giant red ant found 6 purple gold-eyed zombies and 1 red-eyed zombie. 6 ninth-tier zombies and 1 7th-tier zombie. How is this possible? The giant red ant was horrified. It couldn't understand how there could be such high-level zombies here. You don't have the smell of a human, nor the smell of the dark race. What exactly are you? The giant red ant suddenly felt like it had provoked someone it shouldn't have and looked at Yili in horror. You don't need to know who I am because you're about to die, Yili said calmly. With that, Yili gave Long Yu the command. He had never seen Long Yu fight alone before. Long Yu was a fierce general from ancient times, who had only turned into a zombie due to the Heart of Darkness. Following the command, Long Yu, wielding the water and fire merciless spear, lunged at the giant red ant. Although the giant red ant was only a 3rd-tier dark race member, it prepared to make a desperate fight for its life at this critical moment. Children! The 3rd-tier giant red ant shouted loudly, and numerous red ants appeared around him. Yili had encountered these red ants before. While they were weak, their venom was extremely potent. Countless red ants swarmed toward Long Yu. Long Yu raised the water and fire merciless spear, exuding a terrifying killing intent. Sweeping through thousands. Chapter 370, Astonishing Spiritual Treasure. Near the Sky Blue Bay City, Long Yu held the water and fire merciless spear and used the sweeping through thousands technique. The brilliance of the spear instantly spread wildly. Sweeping through thousands, wherever it was used, rivers of blood flowed. These red ants were powerless against such an attack, and they were instantly obliterated. The 3rd-tier giant red ant was in a state of panic, with only one thought in its mind: escape. But Yili had already given Long Yu the command. How could the 3rd-tier giant red ant escape? Just as it was preparing to flee, Long Yu thrust the water and fire merciless spear forward. A glimmer of cold light first appeared, followed by the spear, which was as fierce as a dragon. A cold light instantly flashed in the air. The Tier 3 giant red ant had just turned around, wanting to see if Long Yu had caught up. As soon as he looked back, the Tier 3 giant red ant saw a terrifying spear beam coming at it. Swish! The 3rd-tier giant red ant had no chance to resist such an attack. It didn't even have time to let out a scream before the spear energy pierced through its body. Brother Long Yu is so cool, Yutong's cute face revealed a smile. Yili thought that Long Yu's current level was still too low. If Long Yu were at the 9th tier, he would be much stronger. After all, Long Yu was a zombie with inherent killing intent. Huh? Yili's hearing was extraordinary, and he suddenly heard a sound. Giggle, I heard there is an astonishing spiritual treasure in the Sky Blue Base City. One wonder if we'll find it. Yili activated his heavenly spirit eye to take a look and found more than 10 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe members about a few hundred meters away from him. After storing the Apocalypse Legion in the system space, Yili used his swift steps technique and disappeared from his original location. His purpose for leaving the Sky Blue Base City was not only to raise the tiers of Long Yu and the 18-clawed zombies but also to see if he could find the whereabouts of the treasure from the Super Treasure Map. In an instant, Yili appeared in front of the more than 10 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe members. The Dark Knight tribe possessed the ability to control mutant zombies. Yili had encountered a 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member in Jiang City. The more than 10 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe members were discussing the location of the astonishing spiritual treasure. When they suddenly saw Yili appear, they couldn't help but shiver in fear. They couldn't believe it. There was clearly no human just now. How did this human appear in front of them? Besides, this human didn't seem to have the aura of a human. The more than 10 fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members didn't think too much about it. They speculated that this human might have used some kind of potion to conceal his aura. The Dark Knight tribe members were enveloped in a dark aura that made it impossible to see their true appearances. "Human, how did you suddenly appear in front of us?" one of the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members asked Yili. "Don't worry about that. You just mentioned that there is an astonishing spiritual treasure in the Sky Blue Base City." Yili replied calmly. The more than 10 fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members were all taken aback. They wondered if this human had been nearby all along. Otherwise, how could he have heard their conversation? "Tell me everything you know," Yili continued. Once the Dark Knight tribe members regained their composure, they looked at Yili, who remained silent, and began to grow angry. "Human, do you know that in this world, we, the Dark Race, are the masters?" one of the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members said coldly. Yili smiled faintly. "Speak up, or I won't ask a third time." With this statement, the more than 10 fifth-tier Dark Race members were furious. Chapter 371, Believe it or not, I can kill you with my eyes. Since the outbreak of the apocalypse, the Dark Race had replaced humans as the new masters of the world. These dozen or so fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members had never encountered such an arrogant human before. "Human, you had a chance to escape, but you chose to seek death," one of the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members stared at Yili and said. Yili smiled and calmly looked at the speaking fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member. "Do you believe that one can kill you with my eyes alone?" Yili spoke slowly. Upon hearing this, the dozen or so fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that Yili would dare to say such a thing. "Human, since you are so determined to die, 111 take your life," the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member roared. As he spoke, a surge of dark power was released from the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member, heading towards Yili. Yili shook his head inwardly. Why did people always think he was arrogant? Killing a weak fifth-tier Dark Race member with his eyes was considered arrogant? Yili activated his Heavenly Spirit Eye, and a horrifying golden spiritual energy attack shot out from his eyes. Swish! The golden spiritual energy attack collided with the dark power. Without a doubt, the dark power was instantly dispersed, while the terrifying golden spiritual energy attack continued to fly towards the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member. The fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member widened his eyes, and his eyes were already filled with the horrifying golden spiritual energy. He tried to dodge the golden spiritual energy attack. But it was nearly impossible for a fifth-tier Dark Race member to dodge an attack from a ninth-tier evolved being. Ali! With a scream, the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe member had a gruesome blood hole in his forehead. How is this possible? At this moment, the other Dark Race members finally reacted, and they stared in horror at the body on the ground. "Summon zombies," one of the fifth-tier Dark Race members shouted. Immediately, more than a dozen fifth-tier Dark Race members formed seals with their hands. Then, a black hole appeared in front of them, and a mutant zombie walked out of each black hole. More than a dozen mutant zombies were all Tier 2 zombies. Attack together! The Dark Knight tribe members had already realized how terrifying Yili was. If they didn't attack together, they might all be wiped out. Yili looked at the dozen or so second-tier zombies and his face lit up with excitement. He knew that the Dark Knight tribe's ability was to control zombies, but he didn't expect them to summon zombies in this way. This was interesting. With the dozen or so fifth-tier Dark Race members and the dozen or so second-tier zombies, in Yili's eyes, they were all pitifully weak. Yili raised his hand, and the golden spiritual energy attack swept out like a machine gun. In an instant, only one of the fifth-tier Dark Knight tribe members remained, and the rest had all perished. As for the dozen or so second-tier zombies, Yili naturally synthesized them. Among the dozen or so second-tier zombies, there were 6 male zombies and 6 female zombies, just the right number. Yi Li created one male 5th-tier zombie and one female 5th-tier zombie. The remaining 5th-tier dark race member, upon witnessing this scene, was scared out of his wits. This, the 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't even speak coherently at this point. Speak up, what astonishing spiritual treasure is there in the vicinity of the Sky Blue Base City? Yi Li looked at the 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe member and said slowly. The 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was taken aback, and he swallowed hard. I don't know. It was the third leader who told us. Chapter 372, an 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, third leader. Yi Li was somewhat puzzled, wondering if there was another dark race group around the Sky Blue Base City. Sir, I've told you everything one knows. Can you spare my life? The 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe member looked at Yi Li in horror and asked. What do you think? Yi Li replied indifferently. As he spoke, he slowly raised his finger, and one young finger was launched. The 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe member instantly perished. Yi Li was about to leave for another place to see if he could find the whereabouts of the Super Treasure Map's treasure when he suddenly heard a sinister laugh. You killed the Dark Knight tribe members and think you can just walk away? Yi Li stopped in his tracks upon hearing this and slowly turned around. An 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member appeared in front of him. Human, do you think we Dark Knight tribe members are easy to bully just because we don't often appear in public? The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member said coldly. Yi Li pondered for a few seconds and then looked at the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member. So, are you saying you're not easy to bully? As soon as he said this, the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Human, do you know that you are committing suicide? The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member roared. In his eyes, Yi Li's words were no different from committing suicide. There was no change in Yi Li's expression. He felt that this 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was too interesting. Suddenly, Yi Li thought of something and slowly said to the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, Are you the third leader? Yes, I am indeed the third leader of the Dark Knight tribe. The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member's voice was filled with pride, as if he were quite satisfied with his position as the third leader. Since you are the third leader, then you must know about the astonishing spiritual treasure in the Sky Blue Base City, right? Yi Li continued. The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was surprised, wondering how Yi Li knew about it. However, he soon understood and thought that Yi Li must have learned it from the 5th-tier Dark Knight tribe members. Human, one do know that there is an astonishing spiritual treasure somewhere in the Sky Blue Base City. Unfortunately, you won't live to hear more. The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member said. As he spoke, the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member extended a large hand, and the dark aura on his hand condensed into a dark iron hand, striking towards Yi Li. Yi Li shook his head inwardly, unable to understand why some people were so overconfident. He activated his heavenly spirit eye, and a horrifying golden spiritual energy attack instantly shot out from his pupils. The golden spiritual energy attack collided with the dark iron hand, and with a loud boom, both the golden spiritual energy attack and the dark iron hand disappeared. Yi Li wasn't surprised by this. The heavenly spirit eye was his weakest attack, at least 10 times weaker than one young finger, and he had only used a fraction of his strength. However, the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was wide-eyed and clearly hadn't expected Yi Li to be so terrifying. Human, you actually managed to block my dark iron hand? The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was astonished as he looked at Yi Li. Tell me, where is the astonishing spiritual treasure located? Otherwise, your fate will be extremely miserable, and I guarantee you'll suffer 100-fold. Yi Li looked at the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member and said calmly. The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was instantly infuriated. As the third leader of the Dark Knight tribe, he had never encountered a human who dared to speak to him in such a manner. Chapter 373, You're Not Human. The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member stared at Yi Li intently. He had realized from their earlier exchange that Yi Li's strength was on par with his own. However, even so, Yi Li couldn't defeat him. Besides being at the 8th tier, he also had several zombies under his command. Human, now I'll show you what I'm capable of. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member shouted, and then he formed hand seals with both hands, summoning 3 zombies from the black holes. 2 of them were 5th tier zombies. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member looked very proud. Human, one bet you didn't know that we, the Dark Knight tribe, have this ability, did you? Having summoned the zombies, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member secretly ordered the 3 5th tier zombies to attract more zombies to surround and attack Yi Li. But who was Yi Li? Since he had traveled to this parallel world, he had synthesized countless zombies. Could he not see through the intentions of this 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member? However, Yi Li wondered if this 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member had some issues with his intelligence, as it would take some time for the summoned zombies to arrive. But then Yi Li understood. This 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member probably believed that he was equally powerful and thus acted so recklessly. Human, are you scared? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member looked at Yi Li with a smug expression. Yi Li smiled. You allowed those 2 weak 5th tier zombies to leave so they could attract more zombies to surround me, right? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was shocked. He couldn't believe it. He really couldn't believe it. How did you know? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't fathom how Yi Li had found out. Yi Li chuckled to himself. Originally, he had only wanted to find the whereabouts of the treasure from the super treasure map. However, since this 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member wanted to do him a favor, he might as well accept it. In fact, I'm not afraid of zombies at all, Yi Li said calmly to the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was taken aback. Such words coming from a human. Not afraid of zombies. There were 2 possibilities: either his strength was so great that he wasn't afraid of those trashy zombies, or he wasn't afraid of being bitten by zombies. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member naturally chose to believe the former. Wait. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member finally noticed the aura emanating from Yi Li. This aura wasn't human. Was it masked by drugs, or was this person never human to begin with? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was secretly alarmed as he carefully examined Yi Li. According to human age standards, the person in front of him was just a young man. How could a young man cultivate to the 8th tier? Thinking of this, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't help but become even more puzzled. This wasn't a human, and it didn't have the aura of the Dark Knight tribe. So what was it? You're not human. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member stared at Yi Li and said coldly, one word at a time. Yi Li smiled. When facing dark race members, he always heard such words, but his expression remained unchanged. You're right, I'm not human, Yi Li said slowly. He had originally been a human, but after cultivating the ancient devil tome, he was no longer human. Human or dark race member, what did it matter? Yi Li only knew that anyone who dared to provoke him would have to pay the price. You're not human, and you're not a dark race member. So, what are you? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member didn't continue speaking, his gaze filled with confusion as he looked at Yi Li. Chapter 374, The Wrath of the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. Yi Li looked calmly at the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. The fact that this Dark Knight tribe member could summon zombies intrigued him. If you're so curious about what I am, then I'll tell you. I am a demon, Yi Li spoke slowly. A demon. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was somewhat stunned. He had never heard of a race called demons. What kind of race is a demon? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member asked again. Yi Li pondered for a few seconds, then said to the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member, you can think of it this way, demons and dark race are not on the same level. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member furrowed his brows. Somehow, he felt like he was being played. He began to think that Yili was just a human who had concealed his human aura. He felt like a fool. Human, how dare you toy with me? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member shouted angrily. Yili smiled. Are you fun to toy with? At this moment, the two 5th tier zombies under the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe members' control arrived with thousands of other zombies. Roar! Roar! Thousands of zombies surged towards Yili like a black cloud, completely surrounding him. Ha ha ha! The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't help but laugh out loud as if he had seen the happiest thing in his life. Human, this is the ability of the Dark Knight tribe. Are you afraid? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member looked at Yili smugly. The two 5th tier zombies had already surrounded Yili with thousands of zombies, waiting for the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member to give an order. Do you think I should be afraid? Yili said lightly. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was taken aback. He looked at Yili's face and realized that there was no change in his expression. He could swear that he had never seen a human like this before, someone who could remain so calm in the face of danger. Did he not fear death? Human, why aren't you scared? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member stared at Yili intently. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member believed that Yili and his strength were equally matched. Ordering his zombies to attract more zombies was simply a demonstration of their Dark Knight tribe's abilities. However, he couldn't understand why Yili showed no fear at all. Yili calmly looked at the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member and said, I already told you earlier that I'm not afraid of zombies. Why don't you believe me? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was furious and shouted, Human, since you claim you're not afraid of zombies, do you dare to let my zombies bite you? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member felt that Yili was incredibly arrogant and overconfident. Yili nearly burst into laughter, but he kept a straight face. He didn't want to kill this 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member, or else he would have already been dead. He thought that since things were fine now, and this Dark Knight tribe member didn't believe him, he would make him acknowledge his strength. Sure, let your zombies come and bite me, Yili said calmly. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was taken aback. He had never dreamed that Yili would agree so readily. Fine. If you're determined to become a zombie, don't blame me. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member spoke coldly, one word at a time. With that, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member gave an order to one of the 5th tier zombies, and the 5th tier zombie instantly pounced on Yili. Chapter 375. You will be more shocked next. As the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member gave the command, the 5th tier zombies lunged at Yili. Yili stood motionless in place, even extending his hand. These 5th tier zombies were somewhat obedient and indeed bit into Yili's arm. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was dumbfounded. He never expected that Yili would truly allow his zombies to bite him. The zombie virus from the 5th tier zombie spread quickly. It wouldn't be long before Yili turned into a zombie. You're finished, human. Do you realize you're about to become a zombie? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member sneered. Is that so? A playful smile appeared on Yili's face. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was taken aback. Even at this point, Yili's face showed a playful expression. He couldn't fathom why Yili could be so nonchalant. However, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't have imagined that Yili was immune to the zombie virus ever since he acquired the super synthesis system. 1 minute passed, this, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was left dumbfounded. 1 minute had passed, and how was it possible that this human hadn't turned into a zombie yet? He speculated that Yili's strength might be too high, explaining the delay. 2 minutes passed, 3 minutes passed. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member's eyes widened more than they ever had in his entire life. He couldn't comprehend why Yili hadn't turned into a zombie even after being bitten by one. How could this be possible? Are you surprised? Yili looked calmly at the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was not just surprised, he was utterly shocked. A human evolved being bitten by a zombie had not turned into one. How could he not be shocked to the extreme? Since you're so surprised now, let me tell you, what comes next will be truly shocking. Yi Li said calmly. With that, Yi Li released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. Among these thousands of zombies, some were clawed zombies. Yi Li didn't intend to let them go so easily. Seeing the Apocalypse Legion appear, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member took 3 steps back and gasped for breath, his soul shaken. 9th tier zombies. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was nearly having a heart attack. He was unwilling to believe that 6 9th tier zombies and 1 7th tier zombie were standing before him. It wasn't just their strength that stunned him, their appearances were more remarkable. The male zombies were imposing, and the female zombies were stunningly beautiful. But now was not the time to focus on the appearances of the Apocalypse Legion. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was terrified as he stared at Yi Li. At this moment, he finally believed that Yi Li was not human, because it was impossible for humans to control zombies. He was truly a demon. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member looked at Yi Li again and noticed that Yi Li's face was calm as still water. Such a person was truly terrifying. Attack! Yi Li gave orders to the Apocalypse Legion. He instructed them not to harm the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe members' 2 5th tier zombies. He found this 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member quite interesting. It was the first time since he had transmigrated into this parallel world that he found the dark race interesting. With Yi Li's command, the Apocalypse Legion began to attack the thousands of zombies. Yi Li calmly opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize. In this round, 18 clawed zombies successfully reached the 9th tier. Chapter 376, Call Me the Demon King. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member watched the scene unfold, and he felt like his heart was about to leap out of his chest. Well, what did he see? He saw the zombies rapidly decreasing in number, and their tiers seemed to be increasing. What kind of operation was this? The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was on the verge of tears. Among the dark race, they understood zombies the best and could control mutant zombies. But now, this human, or rather, this demon, not only had 7 high-tier zombies but also possessed such terrifying abilities. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member thought that what happened earlier was the most shocking thing he had ever experienced, but now he finally understood what Yi Li meant. What would come next would be even more shocking. Yi Li looked at the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member with a calm expression and slowly spoke, Never be shocked because everything I do is enough to leave you shocked for 3 days and 3 nights. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member stood frozen like a wooden statue, staring blankly at Yi Li, while waves of shock surged in his heart. After a few seconds, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member made a decision. He summoned the courage to look at Yi Li and then knelt down with a thud. Noble existence, it was my ignorance earlier, and you, before the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member could finish his words, Yi Li interrupted him. Do you think if I wanted to kill you, you would still be alive right now? Yi Li said calmly. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was startled. He knew that Yi Li's words were not a joke. With those 6 9th tier zombies, it would be child's play to kill him if Yi Li wanted to. Hearing Yi Li's words, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't help but feel touched. Now, tell me about the astonishing treasure you know of, Yi Li said to the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. Noble existence, currently, all the major forces know about the astonishing treasure in the Sky Blue Bay City, but no one has found them, and we don't know what they are specifically. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member hastily explained. He didn't dare to hide anything. Yi Li felt a bit disappointed. He had hoped for some useful clues, but this was all there was. By the way, where is your clan's territory? Yi Li suddenly asked. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was surprised and didn't understand why Yi Li was asking this. Did he intend to wipe out their Dark Knight tribe? Thinking of this, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member broke out in a cold sweat all over his body. Noble existence, our clan's territory is in the Dark Knight castle, not too far from here, he replied honestly. Although he had guessed that Yili might be planning to wipe out their Dark Knight tribe, he didn't dare to lie. Let's go, and take me to your clan's territory, Yili said calmly. He thought that the Dark Knight tribe seemed interesting and wanted to subdue them. He still didn't know much about the various forces in the Sky Blue Base City. May I ask why the noble existence intends to visit our clan's territory? Before the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member could finish, he tentatively looked at Yili. It's just a visit. What's wrong? You don't want me to? Yili asked the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member widened his eyes. He had initially thought that Yili was coming to wipe out their clan. He couldn't have imagined that Yili was simply planning to visit. Hearing this, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member heaved a sigh of relief. After placing the Apocalypse Legion into the system space, Yili continued, "Don't call me noble existence from now on. It sounds weird." Then, what should I call? Call me, the Demon King. Chapter 377, The Third Dark Knight Castle. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member led Yili towards the Dark Knight Castle. The Dark Knight Castle was the territory of the Dark Knight tribe, but unlike other Dark Race tribes, they were not as united. They were divided into 3 major factions: the First Leader faction, which was the strongest faction, the Second Leader faction, and the Third Leader faction. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member belonged to the Third Leader faction. The Dark Knight Castle, although called a castle, was astonishingly large, with countless buildings. If it weren't for the dark aura that permeated the place, it would be the most expensive area to live in. Demon King, this is the Dark Knight Castle, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member respectfully said to Yili. Let's go inside, Yili said slowly. He thought that passing through the territory of the Dark Knight race without causing any trouble and simply visiting their territory would be like achieving an achievement in a game. Soon, Yili and the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member entered the Dark Knight Castle. The Third Leader faction of the Dark Knight tribe was called the Third Dark Knight tribe, and the place Yili entered was also called the Third Dark Knight Castle, which was the residence of the Third Dark Knight tribe. As soon as Yili entered the Dark Knight Castle, some of the Dark Knight tribe members were dumbfounded, looking at him in astonishment. No matter what kind of dark race they were, they would all mistake Yili for a human. They saw Yili by the leader's side and didn't dare to ask too many questions, but their curiosity was overwhelming. Why did the leader bring a human here? Nonsense, he doesn't have the aura of a human on him at all. But he also doesn't have the aura of the dark race. Some Dark Knight tribe members whispered among themselves. They thought that since Yili didn't have the aura of a dark race, he must be a human who had concealed his aura. For a moment, the Third Dark Knight tribe members were all shocked and couldn't understand why their leader had brought a human to the Third Dark Knight Castle. What are you looking at? This is Senior Demon King, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member angrily shouted. The 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member was quite fearful, and when he saw the clan members discussing the Demon King, he knew that if their discussions displeased the Demon King, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Third Dark Knight tribe members were left speechless when they heard this. What was the human's identity? Even their leader referred to him as Senior. They seemed to have heard words that were never meant to be heard, and they were all frozen in place. Without further delay, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member led Yili into the main hall. The main hall was filled with a dark aura, and if an ordinary person were here, they would immediately convulse and die in terror. Go and summon the elders, the 8th tier Dark Knight tribe member ordered. Yes, leader. A 4th tier Dark Knight tribe member immediately responded. At that moment, a 7th tier Dark Knight tribe member floated in. The Dark Knight tribe was similar to the Soul tribe. Neither of them had a physical body. It was just that the Dark Knight tribe members were wrapped in dark energy. "Leader, you've returned. You must see this," the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member hurriedly said. With his words, the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member seemed to have discovered something. He focused his gaze and was shocked to the point of jumping. A human. The 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member rubbed his eyes, thinking he must have been mistaken. There was no way a human could appear in the 3rd Dark Knight castle. However, no matter how much the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member rubbed his eyes, Yili remained right before him. Chapter 378, Rest assured, he won't die. This 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was an elder of the 3rd Dark Knight tribe. The 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member looked at Yili in shock, unable to understand why a human would appear here. "What's going on?" the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member hurriedly asked. Only then did the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member remember the matter at hand and quickly said to the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, "The 2nd clan's people have seriously injured the 5th elder." "What?" As soon as the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member heard this, his eyes widened in anger. "Leader, you should go and see, the 5th elder might not make it," the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member said with a mournful expression. Yili thought that the Dark Knight race sounded evil just by its name, but upon closer inspection, he realized that they were just one of the countless races in the multiverse. Upon hearing this, the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member couldn't help but take 3 steps back, and his heart was filled with shock. Afterwards, he quickly followed the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member out of the main hall, and Yili, with nothing better to do, followed suit. Yili arrived in a room where 3 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members were present. When they saw their leader arrive, they quickly stood up. "Leader, Elder 5 is in terrible shape." One of the elders complained to the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member. The other elders were about to speak, but then they suddenly realized something and were shocked to see Yili, human. They never would have imagined that a human would appear before them. But the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member didn't have the time to pay attention to them. He quickly turned his gaze to the 5th elder on the bed. Dark Knight tribe members didn't have physical bodies. The soul of the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member lying on the bed was very weak, as if it would disappear soon. "What's going on?" the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member asked, his eyes burning with anger as he looked at the 5th elder on the bed. "Leader, the 2nd clan went too far. Our conflicts have been going on for a long time. They took advantage of your absence and," upon hearing this, the 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were filled with burning rage. "The 2nd clan." The 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member gnashed his teeth. This 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was called Black Azura. He had lived in this parallel world since he was born. The world was divided into 2 main camps, humans and the dark race. Within those 2 camps, there were numerous factions, each operating independently with no real connections between them. Black Azura was the 3rd leader of the Dark Knight tribe, a level lower than the 1st and 2nd leaders. "Leader, Elder 5 might not make it." Suddenly, another 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member said anxiously. The Dark Knight tribe members in the room quickly looked at the Dark Knight tribe member lying on the bed. The aura of the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member on the bed had weakened significantly, and it was on the verge of disappearing. "Elder 5. Black Azura called out. Yili watched this scene and felt a ripple in his heart. As the saying goes, many a time, those who act justly seem like ordinary folks, while those who are unfaithful are often the learned. He wondered if he should save this 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member. Before coming here, Yili had thought about subduing the Dark Knight tribe, and if that was the case, he should save them. With this in mind, Yili looked at Black Azura and said slowly, "Don't worry, he won't die." When this statement came out, all the Dark Knight tribe members in the room were shocked. "Senior Demon King, do you mean?" Chapter 379, The elder of the second clan arrives. The members of the Dark Knight tribe in the room looked at Yili. From a literal understanding, they naturally understood what Yili meant. Senior Demon King, can you save Old Five? Black Azura hurriedly asked. Although several 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members did not understand why their leader had called a human to be a senior, they didn't have time to dwell on it. They all looked at Yili, curious to see how he would respond. Of course, I can, Yili replied slowly. Upon hearing this, Black Azura became overjoyed, and for some reason, he had complete faith in Yili. Several 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members had no idea how formidable Yili was, so they found it hard to believe. This was just a human. Although they couldn't sense any human aura from Yili, what else could he be other than a human? Yili ignored the astonishment on the faces of these 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members and looked at the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member lying on the bed, growing weaker. A few seconds later, he raised his palm, and a gentle golden aura slowly emanated from it. The golden energy reached the body of the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, and then a miraculous scene unfolded. The 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, who had been on the brink of death, with his dark energy growing weaker and weaker, began to visibly recover at an astonishing rate. The Dark Knight tribe members in the room widened their eyes. To them, this was something they had never expected to witness. While several 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members were filled with joy, they looked at Yili once again and realized that his expression remained as calm as if nothing had happened. Yili retracted his hand. His healing technique was of SSS tier, capable of healing any injury or ailment. The 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member on the bed suddenly felt completely fine. He touched his head in astonishment and looked at his hands. I am okay. Black Azura quickly bowed to Yili and said, Senior Demon King, you really, Yili interrupted Black Azura, as he disliked hearing such compliments. It's nothing, just a simple gesture, Yili said slowly. Upon hearing this, Black Azura dared not continue. He turned to Old Five and said, Old Five, you should thank Senior Demon King. Old Five was taken aback and then looked at Yili in amazement. Leader, did this human save me? Old Five found it hard to believe that a human had rescued him, even if he racked his brain. What human? This is Senior Demon King. Black Azura shouted angrily. As this statement was made, the Dark Knight tribe members in the room were all stunned. They hadn't paid attention earlier, but now they understood clearly. The leader referred to this human as Senior. In other words, several 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe members could easily deduce that for the leader to address someone as Senior, he had to be at least at the 8th tier, if not higher. Old Five was somewhat dumbfounded, watching as the leader got angry. He hurriedly said to Yili, Thank you, Senior Demon King, for saving me. Leader! Leader! Suddenly, a flustered voice reached Yili's ears. A 3rd-tier Dark Knight tribe member rushed in. Leader, the Grand Elder of the 2nd clan has arrived. Black Azura and the elders were all shocked and they heard this news. Chapter 380, Grand Elder Black Wind, Leader, it was Black Wind who injured me. Old Five said to Black Azura. Black Azura sneered, the one who injured me dares to show up. With that, Black Azura and the elders of the 3rd Dark Knight tribe left the room. Yili smiled, finding these Dark Knight tribe members quite interesting. It seemed he was in for a good show. Soon after, he also left the room. Yili followed Black Azura to the outside of the 3rd Dark Knight castle. An 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member appeared with a dozen or so 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe members. Black Azura, is this your way of welcoming guests for your 3rd clan? Black Wind looked smug as he gazed at Black Azura. Upon hearing this, Black Azura became furious. Black Wind, the conflict between the 2nd and 3rd clans has a long history. You severely injured my third clan's fifth elder, and one haven't settled that score with you yet. Yet here you are, walking right into my hands. Black Wind, my second clan's seventh elder left the Dark Night Castle and never returned. You also left the castle that day. Dare you say it wasn't you? I'm just treating you the way you treated me. Your third clan's old five probably won't survive. Ha ha ha. After saying this, the Grand Elder of the second clan, Black Wind, burst into laughter. Black Wind, you think one won't survive? Is that it? A voice reached Black Wind's ears, startling him. He quickly looked ahead and gasped in shock. It's impossible. This can't be real. I clearly injured you severely, how can you stand here and talk to me? No matter what, Black Wind couldn't believe it. As the Grand Elder of the second clan and an 8th-tier evolved being, he was almost on par with the leader in status. Black Wind, are you disappointed? Black Azura's voice contained a hint of sarcasm. By the way, your second clan's 7th elder hasn't returned, so what does that have to do with me, Black Azura? Do you still believe I had something to do with it? Black Azura looked disdainfully at Black Wind. Black Wind's anger flared up upon hearing this, and he stared at Black Azura. If it wasn't you, then who was it? Black Azura was taken aback. He had originally thought this was just an excuse Black Wind had come up with. But now, it seemed real. Black Wind, I've already told you, this has nothing to do with me. Whether you believe it or not, let's settle the matter of you injuring old five. Black Azura stared at Black Wind coldly and continued. Black Wind sneered, Black Azura, do you really think your third clan's power is enough to challenge my second clan? You don't know your place. If you don't want your clan to be wiped out, hand over an elder. Otherwise, Black Wind paused for a few seconds, then looked at Black Azura coldly and said, otherwise, the third clan will be exterminated. Hearing this, the members of the third Dark Knight tribe were filled with fear. The third Dark Knight tribe was significantly weaker than the second Dark Knight tribe in terms of power. Yili found this situation rather dull. If they were going to fight, why waste time talking so much? And, suddenly, Yili remembered something. Could the 7th elder of the second clan be the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member he had killed in Jiang City? Thinking about this, Yili smiled. Let me say something. Yili said lightly. When the Dark Knight tribe members heard this, they all froze and turned to look in the direction of the voice. Chapter 381, It was actually me, the Grand Elder of the second clan, Black Wind, and the group of 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe members stared in astonishment. Not just astonishment, but sheer disbelief. A human. Black Wind stared at Yili in disbelief, preferring to believe that he would only live for a second rather than accept the possibility of a human being here. After all, this was the territory of the Dark Race. Suddenly, Black Wind realized something and angrily shouted at Black Azura, Black Azura, I can't believe you dare to collude with humans. Black Azura was about to make a sarcastic remark to Black Wind when Yili spoke up. Wait a moment. Let me say something, Yili calmly said to Black Wind. Black Wind was taken aback. He had seen many genetic warriors among humans, and judging by the human's age, this young man was just a teenager. How could such a young human be a powerful evolved being? Black Wind couldn't understand how Yili could remain so composed in front of him. Did he rely on Black Azura, perhaps? Thinking of this, Black Wind couldn't help but smirk. He was starting to find this human interesting. Human, go ahead and speak. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Black Wind looked at Yili playfully. Yili pondered for a few seconds, then looked at Black Wind and said slowly, actually, the 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member you're looking for went to Jiang City. Jiang City? So what? Black Wind looked puzzled. He went to Jiang City and met me, Yili. So one casually killed him, Yili said calmly. What? When this statement was made, the Dark Knight tribe members were shocked beyond belief. They never dreamed that Yili would say such words. Human, are you saying that you killed the seventh elder of my second clan? Black Wind couldn't believe his ears as he stared at Yili. Yili smiled. I just killed a mere 7th-tier Dark Knight tribe member. Is it really that surprising? The Dark Knight tribe members of the second clan were absolutely astounded. Such words were incredibly audacious. Ha ha ha. Black Wind, the Grand Elder of the second clan, burst into laughter like a madman. Everyone present was surprised and didn't understand why Black Wind was laughing. Human, did Black Azura teach you to say such things? Are you also going to claim that Black Azura captured you and brought you here? Black Wind looked at Yili with extreme disdain. Yili shook his head inwardly. Why was it that nobody believed him when he told the truth? You seem to know quite a bit, Yili said casually to Black Wind. That's enough. Black Wind shouted angrily, pointing at Yili. What are you pretending to be worth at this point? Do you realize that you're about to die? Black Azura secretly rejoiced. He thought Black Wind was digging his own grave. With the help of Senior Demon King, the second clan was nothing. Thinking of Yili's Apocalypse Legion, Black Azura couldn't help but shiver. Yili smiled. Since you say I'm about to die, why don't you show your skills? With that, Yili beckoned to Black Wind. Black Wind couldn't help but get furious. Do I need to make a move to kill a mere human? Go and kill that human. As he spoke, a 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member flew towards Yili. Chapter 382, Never Trust Your Own Eyes. The Grand Elder of the second clan knew deep down that Yili would be unable to withstand the attack of a 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member no matter what. Just one strike, and Yili would instantly be killed. He thought that after Yili died, he would see how Black Azura would react. The Dark Knight tribe members watched this scene in disbelief as the 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member had already reached Yili's side. The 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member struck Yili with a palm infused with the power of darkness, and it seemed to carry a howling wind. Yili's face remained calm, as if he hadn't seen anything at all. The 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member's palm struck Yili's body without deviation or hesitation. Except for Black Azura, all the Dark Knight tribe members believed that Yili was already dead. However, what they couldn't have imagined was that Yili didn't even take a step back. His face remained as calm as ever. How is this possible? The 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member stared wide-eyed at Yili, unable to believe what he was seeing. In this world, nothing is impossible. For example, do you believe that you're about to die? Yili said calmly. As he spoke, a shocking burst of golden spiritual power shot out from Yili's eyes. Swish! With a sound like tearing through the air, a terrifying blood hole appeared on the forehead of the 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member. The 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member's eyes widened, unable to believe that he had died so easily. Silence, a deadly silence. All the Dark Knight tribe members present were dumbfounded. They couldn't remember ever being so shocked in their lives. Black Wind, the Grand Elder of the second clan, never expected that Yili would be so powerful. A mere 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe member was killed so effortlessly. He started to believe that Yili had not lied. The 7th Elder had indeed been killed by Yili. Human, one never expected you to have such power. Black Wind stared at Yili in amazement. Yili smiled faintly. Do you really trust your own eyes? What? Black Wind was taken aback, clearly not understanding what Yili meant. Never trust your own eyes, because your eyes can deceive you, Yili continued. This statement left the Dark Knight tribe members in the room utterly confused. Human, what do you mean? Black Wind's expression turned colder. Yili smiled and, after a few seconds, he slowly said, for example, behind you, there are more than a dozen Dark Knight tribe members. Do you believe that I can make you see their corpses in just 1 second? With these words, the Dark Knight tribe members were once again dumbfounded. Such audacious words had never been heard before, and it was simply too arrogant. Black Wind's expression turned even colder. As the Grand Elder of the Second Clan, an 8th-tier Dark Knight tribe member, he had never heard such arrogant words. Human, do you not know where you are? Why are you so arrogant? Black Wind couldn't understand. He really couldn't understand why a human could be so arrogant. Why? Yi Li smiled coldly. Then, Yi Li slowly enunciated each word, because I am the Demon King Yi Li. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li activated swift steps, leaving only an afterimage behind. In an instant, countless shadows began to appear behind Black Wind. Chapter 383, Super Treasure Map Extra. Yi Li's current SSS tier swift steps were incredibly fast. Before Black Wind could react, he saw Yi Li back in his original position. As for the dozen or so 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe members behind him, they had all fallen to the ground and then vanished at a visible speed. Silence, a prolonged silence. The members of the 3rd clan stood as if they were made of clay and wood, their eyes bulging even wider than a cow's eyes, and their mouths wide enough to hold an extra-large bowl. Suddenly, they couldn't help but remember what Yi Li had just said to Black Wind. Do you believe one can make you see their corpses in just 1 second? Initially, they didn't believe it, and they doubted that anyone else would believe it either. But now they finally understood that not only were they wrong, they were completely wrong. Yi Li's face remained as calm as ever as he looked at the stunned Black Wind and said, I told you, never trust your own eyes. At this moment, Black Wind finally understood the meaning behind Yi Li's words. Elder 5 swallowed hard, thinking that he had just questioned Yi Li and didn't believe that Yi Li had saved him. Fortunately, the leader had stopped him, or the consequences would have been unimaginable. Black Wind stared at Yi Li, unable to understand where Black Azura had found such a formidable entity to help him. And it seemed like the human had said, his name was Demon King Yi Li. Black Wind looked at Yi Li, and he had already noticed that there was no trace of a human aura emanating from Yi Li's body, but he had firmly believed that Yi Li was human. But now, this belief was shaken. If Yi Li was truly human, how could someone of his age have cultivated to such a high tier? More than a dozen 6th-tier Dark Knight tribe members had disappeared in the blink of an eye, and he hadn't even had a chance to see clearly. Demon King Yi Li, although you are powerful, don't forget where you are. Black Wind, after all, was the Grand Elder of the 2nd clan, and currently, he believed that Yi Li was strong but not to the point where he was terrifying. Black Wind, don't forget that this is my 3rd Dark Knight castle, not the 2nd Dark Knight castle. Black Azura said coldly. Upon hearing this, Black Wind gritted his teeth and said, Black Azura, I will definitely inform the leader and the Grand Leader about your collusion with humans. Black Azura smiled coldly. Go ahead and tell them. In any case, I've had enough. If necessary, my 3rd clan can leave the Dark Knight tribe. Alright, we'll see. With that, Black Wind's entire body exuded a dark aura like the night and disappeared from the spot after a few seconds. Black King, I'm sorry to implicate you. Black Azura's words weren't finished when Yi Li interrupted, no need. It's fine, I have some free time anyway. Hearing this, Black Azura's heart, which had been hanging in his throat, finally relaxed. With Yi Li's help, dealing with the 1st and 2nd clans wouldn't be a problem. Yi Li thought that he had to find the treasure as soon as he resolved this matter. He couldn't delay any longer. The next day, as soon as Yi Li opened his eyes. Zombie Treasure Chest X27. Yi Li opened the zombie chests with a single command: Gene points, 1200, Strength points, 1200, Speed points, 1200, Defense points, 1200. Super Treasure Map Extra 11. Yi Li integrated the attribute points he obtained into his body. He looked at the introduction of the Super Treasure Map Extra. He knew about the Super Treasure Map, but what was this extra map? Chapter 384, The Great Battle is about to begin. Ding, are you sure you want to activate the Super Treasure Map Extra? Yes, Yili replied without hesitation. Super Treasure Map Extra is being activated, 10%. 30%. 60%. 100%. Super Treasure Map Extra has been successfully activated. Coordinates appeared in Yili's mind, and his face, as beautiful as jade, showed a hint of excitement. The last time he arrived at that unknown town, the coordinates in his mind disappeared, leaving him completely clueless. Now, the coordinates had appeared again, and he believed it was the same Super Treasure Map from before, but with an additional component. Senior Demon King. A panicked voice reached Yili's ears. Black Azura rushed into the room, looking flustered as he continued, Demon King, the first clan and the second clan are here. Yili waved his hand casually at Black Azura and said, there's nothing to panic about. With that, Yili walked calmly toward the door, with Black Azura quickly following behind. Outside the third Dark Knight castle, the forces of the first and second Dark Knight tribes were encroaching, and the dim sky seemed even darker. The third clan of the Dark Knight tribe gathered on the city walls, and an earth-shattering battle was about to begin. Yili arrived at the city wall, where the Dark Knight tribe members below were densely packed, and the aura of darkness pervaded the surroundings, making one's scalp tingle. A ninth-tier Dark Knight tribe member stood proudly with an ancient spear in hand. Even though he was shrouded in darkness, his overwhelming aura couldn't be concealed. Yili could easily deduce that this ninth-tier Dark Knight race member was the leader of the first clan. Beside this ninth-tier Dark Knight tribe member, there was another ninth-tier Dark Knight tribe member. His aura was slightly weaker, but he wielded a trident-like evil weapon. The leader of the first clan was named Black Battle, while the leader of the second clan was named Black Cloud. Black Battle raised his ancient spear and gave a cold smile, pointing at Black Azura on the city wall. Black Azura, how dare you collude with humans to kill our Dark Knight tribe members? Both the leaders of the first and second clans were 9th tier Dark Knight tribe members, while Black Azura was only at the 8th tier. Therefore, the third clan naturally held the lowest status among them. Black Battle, there's no use talking about this now that it's come to this. Just tell me, what do you want to do? Black Azura retorted coldly. What did he have to fear? With the assistance of Demon King Yili, he wasn't afraid of anything. Even if the sky were about to fall, he wouldn't be afraid. Black Azura, how dare you speak to me like this? As the grand leader of the first clan and the leader of the Dark Knight tribe, he had never heard anyone speak to him like this before. The previous Black Azura had always been submissive in his presence, but now, so what if I speak to you like this? Do you really think I'm the same Black Azura as before? Black Azura sneered. Silence, a deadly silence. Black Azura, since your third clan wants to be exterminated, then don't blame us, Black Battle said, staring at Black Azura. Yili looked bored. He leaped down from the city wall. Why are you wasting so much time on useless words? Can't we just start fighting? Yili said calmly as he looked at Black Battle. Black Battle and Black Cloud were taken aback and quickly turned their gazes towards Yili. Are you the human who colluded with Black Azura? Black Battle asked firmly. Chapter 385, Do you want the dragon-slaying blade? Yili's face, as beautiful as jade, showed indifference as he looked at Black Battle. Do you know that you talk too much? What did you just say? Black Battle gritted his teeth, his voice cold as he stared at Yili. Let's get started. I'm getting impatient, Yili said calmly. Black Battle stared at Yili, unable to understand why Yili could be so calm and composed when facing the leaders of the first clan and the second clan. Didn't he know the meaning of death? Very well, I've never seen a human like you before. Farewell, Black Battle said coldly. As he spoke, Black Battle extended his large hand, and a surge of darkness attacked Yili. Yili shook his head inwardly. What did Black Battle take him for? He slowly raised his finger, and golden spiritual energy wrapped around it. With a single move, he released a golden energy attack against the darkness. Boom! The golden energy and darkness fiercely collided, and both disappeared in an instant. Yili retrieved the dragon-slaying blade from the system space. A thunderous dragon's roar echoed as dazzling cold light radiated through the dim sky. The Dark Knight tribe members looked in horror at the five-clawed blood dragon hovering in the sky. Just hearing the dragon's roar made their hearts tremble. This blade, Black Battle widened his eyes. The ancient spear in his hand was considered a top-level weapon, but compared to the blade in Yili's hand, it was like trash. Big brother, could this be? The leader of the second clan, Black Cloud, suddenly seemed to realize something and was left speechless. Hearing Black Cloud's words, Black Battle couldn't help but gasp. Are you saying this is the dragon-slaying blade, one of the 10 great divine weapons? Black Battle immediately looked at the blade in Yili's hand. Now, he was even more certain that it was indeed the dragon-slaying blade. What other blade could be so terrifying besides one of the 10 great divine weapons? Human, is the blade in your hand? Before Black Battle could finish his sentence, Yili interrupted him. Yes, the blade in my hand is indeed the dragon-slaying blade. Upon hearing Yili's answer, greed filled Black Battle's eyes. He licked his lips and looked at Yili, saying, it's truly unexpected, a treasure comes without any effort. Black Battle had never expected to come across the dragon-slaying blade. It was an extremely rare opportunity. Black Cloud was no different. His eyes were filled with greed. Compared to the blade in Yili's hand, his trident-like weapon was nothing. Even Black Azura's leader, Black Azura, didn't anticipate this. He couldn't help but feel even more delighted. With the Demon King's help, their chances of winning were greatly increased. Open the city gate. Black Azura stood on the city wall and shouted loudly. Immediately, the city gates swung wide open, and countless members of the Third Dark Knight tribe charged out. A lazy expression appeared on Yili's face, and he looked at Black Battle and Black Cloud. Do you want this dragon-slaying blade very much? Of course, Black Battle and Black Cloud wanted the dragon-slaying blade. When they heard Yili's words, they felt that Yili was prepared to retreat and give them the dragon-slaying blade. Chapter 386, The Three-Forked Demon Head Blade is broken. At this moment, the first clan, the second clan, and the Third Dark Knight tribe were in a standoff. Black Battle, the leader of the first clan, looked at Yili with a cold smile. Human, hand over the dragon-slaying blade obediently, and one might consider letting you leave as a complete corpse. Yili, however, shook his head slowly. I despise it when people threaten me the most. Unfortunately, there's always someone who does. I am indeed threatening you right now. If you don't hand over the dragon-slaying blade, one guarantee that you will die a miserable death. Black Battle threatened. It's a pity, you'll never have the chance, Yili said slowly. What? Black Battle looked at Yili in confusion. What do you mean, human? Black Battle stared at Yili. Yili smiled faintly. There's nothing special about it, just that you'll die very soon. This statement shocked the elders of the first clan, Black Cloud, and the elders of the second clan. They couldn't understand why, at this point, Yili could still say such things. Human, one think you're fearless until your death. Black Battle stared at Yili. As the leader of the first clan, no Dark Knight tribe had ever dared to speak to him like this. He never expected that a human would say such things to him. Yili smiled calmly. One will never fear even in the face of death, because he'll never be in that situation. Come, at this point, do you still have anything worth hesitating about? Come over and let me, Yili, kill you. Yili beckoned to Black Battle and Black Cloud. Black Battle and Black Cloud were instantly furious. Black Cloud suddenly disappeared from where he was standing. As the leader of the second clan, he was at the 9th tier. His speed was so fast that it reached a point where it was almost invisible to the naked eye. Unfortunately, in Yili's eyes, such speed was like child's play. When Black Cloud reappeared, he had already reached in front of Yili, wielding his three-forked demon head blade and chopping down at Yili. Swish. The three-forked demon head blade was a top-grade treasure. This strike was filled with a chilling light, and its power was terrifying. However, no matter how good the three-forked demon head blade was, in comparison to the dragon-slaying blade in Yili's hand, it was simply nothing. Yili raised the dragon-slaying blade to block, and the two blades clashed. Clang! The Dark Knight tribe members felt a sudden buzzing in their ears. They were shocked and stared at Yili and Black Cloud in disbelief. Crack! At the moment when the three-forked demon head blade struck the dragon-slaying blade, it instantly shattered. How was that possible? Black Cloud was horrified. His three-forked demon head blade had just broken. This was a top-grade treasure weapon. He knew that the dragon-slaying blade was one of the 10 great divine weapons, but he had never imagined that its power would be so terrifying. Yili smiled inwardly. He couldn't understand why Black Cloud was so shocked. Did he think his three-forked demon head blade was excellent, or did he believe that Yili's dragon-slaying blade was trash? Farewell, Yili said calmly, looking at Black Cloud. Although Black Cloud was at the same tier as him, the gap in strength between them was insurmountable. He was an SSS genetic warrior who had mastered the 4th level of the ancient Devil Tome. His attributes were overwhelming. It could be said that no one was his match at the 9th tier. Yili raised the dragon-slaying blade and slashed out. This slash was extremely terrifying. Black Cloud widened his eyes, but he was too close to Yili. Even with all his strength, he couldn't avoid it. He shouted, "I'm done." Chapter 387, The Great Battle begins. The chilling radiance of the dragon-slaying blade struck Black Cloud's body, causing his entire body to be enveloped in a cold light. Ah! Black Cloud let out a hair-raising and earth-shattering scream. A few seconds later, Black Cloud met his end right there on the spot. Under the dragon-slaying blade, there were no innocent souls, and even if there were, Yili didn't fear the karma. Leader. The elders of the second clan and the Dark Knight tribe couldn't help but turn red in their eyes when they saw this scene. Demon King Yili, you dared to kill the leader of my second clan. Today, you won't get away with it. The Grand Elder, Black Wind, roared in anger. Get him, avenge our leader. As soon as he finished speaking, the Dark Knight tribe of the second clan rushed towards Yili. Yili smiled coldly. He had been waiting for this moment. Seeing this, Black Azura immediately shouted, "Charge!" Immediately, the Dark Knight tribe members of the third clan joined the battlefield. Black Battle, the leader of the first clan, did not give any orders. His face grew colder. Yili had casually killed Black Cloud, which shocked him. But now, he was going to sit back and watch as both sides weakened each other. When both sides were seriously injured, he would reap the benefits. The Dark Knight tribe members of the second and third clans numbered in the tens of thousands, and their battle cries echoed, shaking the heavens. Yili leaped into the air, raised the dragon-slaying blade high, and shouted, "Flame Blade Technique." As the words fell, the blade fell. Countless fire blades headed towards the Dark Knight tribe of the second clan, and in an instant, the ground below turned into a sea of fire. After Yili unleashed a single slash, he had no intention of striking again. He looked at Black Battle with indifference. He thought that the Black Battle was quite cunning and knew that when the Sandpiper and the Clam fought, the Fisher would reap the benefits. Unfortunately, he didn't even know who the Fisher was. He was just a 9th tier Dark Knight tribe member, but he actually dared to covet his dragon-slaying blade. Black Battle, one will kill you today, Yi Li declared. Black Battle was taken aback, staring at Yi Li in astonishment. In the blink of an eye, Yi Li had been in mid-air one moment and disappeared the next. Black Battle hurriedly looked for Yi Li's figure, but even if he had another pair of eyes, he wouldn't be able to find Yi Li. That was because Yi Li had already arrived among the Dark Knight tribe members of the first clan. The Dark Knight tribe members of the first clan were in shock when they saw this. They had been watching the fight, but suddenly, Yi Li appeared right next to them. This, the Dark Knight tribe members who were not far from Yi Li took 3 steps back, clearly terrified. Swish! Yi Li held the dragon-slaying blade and swung it down. In an instant, the Dark Knight tribe members who were close to him melted into nothingness. At this moment, Black Battle finally reacted. He quickly turned around and was shocked to the extreme. This human had arrived here in such a short amount of time, and his speed was truly terrifying. Kill him! Black Battle regained his senses and immediately ordered the first clan to attack Yi Li. The first clan swarmed towards Yi Li. Yi Li had been besieged by Dark Knight tribe members countless times before, but as the saying goes, capture the ringleader first. This was an old and well-known saying, and it was an eternal truth. Suddenly, Yi Li released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space to block the Dark Knight tribe members. Then, he flew towards Black Battle. The Dark Knight tribe members were left empty-handed, as Yi Li had disappeared. Soon after, they witnessed the most terrifying scene imaginable. Zombies. 7 zombies appeared right before their eyes. Chapter 388, Demon King Yi Li is in pursuit. The creatures of the Dark Knight tribe looked at the 7 zombies before them, their souls trembling in fear. 9th tier zombies. These Dark Knight tribe creatures had never seen 9th tier zombies before. They were so terrified that their souls seemed to have left their bodies. Roar! Da let out a roar, and the earth-shattering fist struck out. Following Da's attack, Bai Wawa, Hongye, Yutong, swordsman Qi, Bone Maiden, and Long Yu all joined in the fight. These low-level Dark Knight tribe creatures couldn't withstand such an assault, and the situation quickly turned into a gruesome spectacle. At this moment, Yi Li had already engaged in battle with Black Battle. Black Battle was slightly stronger than Black Cloud, whose weapon was an ancient high-quality spear. Swish! 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 Terrifying icy radiance continuously emanated, a sight that was truly horrifying to behold. Black Battle was no match for Yi Li. From the moment they clashed, Black Battle knew that he had no chance of defeating Yi Li. He had already contemplated retreating and immediately formed hand seals, summoning a 7th tier male zombie, intending to use this 7th tier male zombie as a sacrificial pawn. During this time, he planned to escape. As luck would have it, Long Yu was currently a 7th tier zombie. Yi Li wasn't in a rush to chase after Black Battle. To put it in the words of an old Chinese saying, even if Sun Wukong is formidable, can he escape from the 5-finger mountain of Tathagata? Roar! The 7th tier male zombie let out a roar and pounced towards Yi Li. Yi Li kicked the body of the 7th tier male zombie, sending it flying instantly. It may have appeared to be just a simple kick, but its power was absolutely devastating. If an ordinary person were to receive such a kick, they would have no chance of survival. Yi Li placed the nearly lifeless 7th tier male zombie into the system space, planning to merge it with Long Yu later. Yi Li's lips curled slightly, and a smile appeared on his face, radiating confidence. He figured that since the 7th tier male zombie had been stored in the system space, Black Battle's fate was sealed. Yi Li activated his Heavenly Spirit Eye to locate Black Battle. It didn't take long to find Black Battle's position. He then activated his swift steps and disappeared on the spot. Black Battle desperately fled. He felt he had been quite foolish. How could someone who possessed several of the 10 great divine weapons be weak? Moreover, he had witnessed Yili summoning those 9th-tier zombies earlier. At that moment, he realized that there was no way he could ever provoke Yili. Black Battle was relieved that he had managed to escape. He didn't want to end up like the worthless Black Cloud, who had been too eager to obtain the dragon-slaying blade, only to meet an unknown fate. He was a 9th-tier dark race member, an unparalleled existence wherever he went. Besides, he had had enough of this wretched place. Thinking about it, Black Battle's mood was surprisingly good. He didn't care whether the first clan would be wiped out. He turned back to check if Yili was pursuing him. In his heart, he believed that Yili could never catch up to him because he had enough confidence in his own speed. However, as soon as Black Battle turned around, a chilling sensation ran from the base of his spine to the top of his head, as if he had fallen into an icy abyss. Demon King Yili was in pursuit. Black Battle couldn't even dream of Yili pursuing him, nor did he expect Yili to be so fast that he could close the distance so quickly. In fact, he had already witnessed Yili's speed earlier, but he had thought that his own speed was on par with Yili's. Chapter 389, Black Battle's Demise. Black Battle turned around and saw Yili chasing after him, as if a bolt of lightning had struck him. He gritted his teeth, preparing to accelerate. However, just as he was about to turn back and make a frantic escape, a scene unfolded before him that made him recoil in shock, retreating dozens of meters. It was because Yili had already appeared right in front of him. You. Black Battle had initially thought that Yili's speed was about the same as his own, but now he realized not only was he wrong, but he was profoundly wrong. Yili carried the dragon-slaying blade on his shoulder and looked at Black Battle with indifference. One told you, you are doomed today. Why do you still want to run? Black Battle stared at Yili and said, Yili, there's no deep-seated enmity between us. Why are you so determined not to spare me? Yili smiled, nodding slightly. He gazed at the dark sky and spoke slowly. Do you think I, Yili, need a reason to kill you? Yili was well aware of his own nature. He wasn't a good person, nor was he a bad person. People like him typically didn't need any reason to act. Black Battle's expression turned cold. Yili, I'm also in the 9th tier. One can take you down with me. Hee. What are you laughing at? Black Battle glared at Yili. As the leader of the Dark Knight tribe, he had never been pushed to such a desperate situation before. I'm laughing at your ignorance. You don't understand how vast the heavens are and how deep the earth is. Do you really think you, Black Battle, are worthy of a life-and-death struggle with me? Yili said calmly. Come, let me kill you. Perhaps you'll die more comfortably. Yili beckoned to Black Battle with a slow wave of his finger. Black Battle clenched his teeth, gripping the ancient spear in his hand. He swiftly thrust the spear forward, sending a cold radiance shooting towards Yili. Yili shook his head inwardly. Why did no one ever believe him? Originally, Black Battle could have died more comfortably, but now it seemed he didn't appreciate that opportunity. Swish! A cold glint appeared first, followed by a slash like a dragon. The dragon-slaying blade unleashed a terrifying cold radiance, and the two cold radiances collided heavily. Boom! The cold radiance emitted by the ancient spear couldn't compare to the cold radiance of the dragon-slaying blade. It was instantly scattered without a trace. But the cold radiance still moved toward Black Battle. Black Battle's expression turned even more horrified, and he quickly dodged, narrowly avoiding the horrifying cold radiance. Black Battle was about to take a breather. As soon as he raised his head, he saw that Yili had already arrived in front of him with the dragon-slaying blade. Black Battle died. Yili slowly sheathed the dragon-slaying blade. His face, as flawless as jade, showed no emotion, as if nothing had happened. Now that Black Battle was dead, it was time for him to return to the battlefield to take a look. Before he came, he had ordered the Apocalypse Legion to help the third clan of the Dark Knight tribe. Yi Li could easily predict that the situation was now overwhelmingly in their favor. Leader, Black Wind has escaped. The Black Azura was stunned and hurriedly looked for Black Wind. Black Wind was the Grand Elder of the second clan and had injured the fifth elder of the third clan. He certainly wouldn't let Black Wind off. Chase. Black Azura said coldly. Yes, leader, an elder quickly responded. Yi Li was on his way back when he suddenly halted his steps. He had seen a member of the Dark Knight tribe approaching him. He happened to know this guy. It was none other than the Grand Elder of the second clan. Black Wind. Chapter 390, Leaving the Dark Knight Castle. Black Wind quickly halted his steps, looking at Yi Li in utter terror. He hadn't expected to encounter Yi Li here, even if he had racked his brains. Demon King Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly, and it seemed that Black Wind was planning to escape, but he hadn't expected to run into him. What could Yi Li say to that? Demon King Yi Li, what do you want? Black Wind glared at Yi Li, speaking coldly. Meeting me means your fate is death. Why are you asking what I want? Yi Li chuckled. As the words left his mouth, Yi Li swung the dragon-slaying blade with a powerful slash, and a cold radiance shot towards Black Wind. Black Wind was terrified and quickly dodged, attempting to evade Yi Li's attack. But as soon as he evaded, Yi Li had already arrived right in front of him, and the dragon-slaying blade swung horizontally. Swish! Black Wind couldn't dodge this strike even if he used all his strength. Ollie! A pig-like scream echoed as the second clan's elder, Black Wind, met his demise. Yi Li's face showed no emotion. He sheathed the dragon-slaying blade, put it back in the system space, and continued on his way. As he expected, the situation was one-sided in the favor of the Apocalypse Legion and the third clan of the Dark Knight tribe. The first clan and the second clan were utterly powerless to resist the Apocalypse Legion. At this point, both clans had surrendered. When Yi Li returned, the Apocalypse Legion greeted him respectfully. Master. Yi Li nodded, and Black Azura quickly approached. From the moment he saw Yi Li, he knew how terrifying the strength of the Demon King was. Senior Demon King, Yi Li waved his hand to indicate that Black Azura didn't need to say much. He looked at Black Azura and said calmly, I am leaving the Dark Knight Castle now. What to do next is your responsibility. After merging the 7th-tier zombie that Black Battle had summoned with Long Yu had become an 8th-tier zombie. Yi Li thought that coming to the Dark Knight Castle might have been a mistake. However, it was a fortunate one because he had obtained an additional map for the Super Treasure map. Now, it was time to search for the treasure. Following the coordinates in his mind, Yi Li arrived in a new location. This was an abandoned city. Yi Li scanned it with the heavenly spirit eyes and found that there were quite a number of zombies in this city. After sending out the Apocalypse Legion from the system space, he asked the post-apocalyptic world army to lure the zombies. In no time, countless zombies surged towards them like a tidal wave. Roar! Roar! Yi Li gave orders to the Apocalypse Legion. He opened the synthesis grid in his mind and started merging the zombies. After half a day, the system's voice finally rang in Yi Li's ears. Long Yu upgraded to a 9th-tier zombie. The 18-clawed zombies also reached the 1st tier. Yi Li nodded in satisfaction. Now it was time to find the treasure. The location was not far from the coordinates in his mind, so he walked there at a leisurely pace. Yi Li came to a bare mountain. What he didn't expect was that he wasn't the only one on this mountain. There was also a human and a dark race member fighting. The human was an elderly man in his 70s. The elderly man exuded a powerful aura and was a 9th-tier evolved being. The dark race member was also at the 9th tier, holding 2 hammers in his hands and a large drum hanging in front of him. Boom! The dark race member wielded the double hammers and struck the drum, producing a deafening thunderous sound that surged toward the elderly man. The elderly man struck with a powerful punch, and the formidable purple aura collided with the thunderous sound. Yili smiled faintly, not expecting to witness such a battle in this remote place. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.